Welcome to Meliora's channel, your go-to place for C# and data analysis tutorials, products hands-on demos, and insider secrets to keep you at the cutting edge of innovation. Our goal is to break down complex tech topics to a level that you will easily understand to supercharge your skills. Without further ado, let's jump right in. Today we'll be dealing with the topic of understanding XAML, extensible application markup language. So we would approach the day's learning through this agenda. What is XAML? Structure of a WPF window in XAML, and then how to add and customize basic controls such as button, text block, text box, label, and so on. We've already dealt with what is XAML in our previous video, so we will not waste too much time trying to redefine it again. What we will do is just to jump on to the Visual Studio integrated development environment and actually start creating a WPF application, and in so doing XAML will become clearer and clearer to you. So without further ado, let me jump onto Visual Studio. I assume that your Visual Studio is now properly set up and working. So as I start mine, just follow me and kickstart your own Visual Studio integrated development environment. So I fire on Visual Studio 2022 Community Edition. That's what I have. It's a free version, so I expect that's what you have as well. So, and when you fire it up, you would have something that looks like this. So you just come right to this side on the right hand side and click create a new project. And when you click create a new project, a new screen comes up, and that screen will have recent project templates. So in my case, I have a long list here, and that is because I've been working on a number of projects. So if you are new to WPF, or even new, that's if this is your first time of using Visual Studios, then you're likely not to have this list. So we want to create a WPF application, which I could have just clicked here and then progress, but because you may not have this same list, project templates list as I do, if you're new, I will then show you how you would progress at your first time. So you come to this point and click, and you type WPF. When you type WPF, you see that the whole list on the right will be filtered off to WPF templates. So you have WPF application, class library, custom control library, and so on and so forth. So what we are looking for is this first one, which is WPF application for C#, Windows, and desktop. So remember, it's C# Windows desktop, and that's exactly the same thing that is here. But because I want to follow the same route as you would follow, especially if you're new to Visual Studio and WPF, that's why I'm going that route. So I click on this and then say next. So here you just type the name of the application. So in this particular case, I will just call it the name of the project. Sorry, in this particular case, I will just call it First WPF Training App. First WPF Training App. So I call it that, and then I have the option of indicating here whether I want to place the solution and the project in the same directory or not. So if I do this, it will, and you notice it now allows me to make a change to this name. So you can now decide to give the project a separate name from the solution. But if you say both of them would have to be in the same directory, then you are forced to ensure that both the project and the solution bear the same name. You are not allowed to have different names for both of them. and that is what is going to happen for us in this case, because we will just want to continue with both of them being in the same directory. So with this, you just come here and click next, and the next thing you have is now to select the framework, the version of the framework you want to work on. By default, it has selected .NET 8.0 for us, and it says it's got a long-term support. So this is just fine, but you can see all the options available from here, and then you see various options available which you can actually pick from, but I usually go with the default. You can see there is even a newer one, .NET 9.0, which is the standard term support, but because this newer version might be not very stable at this point, so it's suggested or recommended this for us. Yeah, so I'll just progress and click create, and then the system would do a whole lot of stuff for us, trying to build the project, to create, do a whole lot, trying to build the project for us. Is still finalizing the creation of the project, still finalizing it, but you can see already we have the first WPF training app here. This area is called the Solution Explorer. And this area is called the Windows. So the Windows here display this area. Now this area is where it just breaks it into different windows, and this is the design you are coming up with. Will be showing here. This is the XAML code that is actually creating this design, and this is the Solution Explorer, where you see all the components that make up your project at every point in time. So this is the default screen that usually comes out when you are done with creation of the default application, WPF application. So once you get this, the program is actually ready to run. That's the beauty of it. So if you save this, just to show you that it runs before we progress, and now click run here, you see that it will build, compile, and execute, and it comes up with a window but with nothing on it, because that's what we have, just a window without anything on it at this moment. And this is essentially your first WPF training app, really, which created a window without any control elements. So if you exit this, let's go back to where we were. Now we can now start making changes to this, but there is always a way. There's a way I usually make changes to this sort of application. I first of all move this to somewhere here, because it is more visible for me there, and I can see everything as it progresses. And to do that, you just come to this screen, this little icon here called vertical split, and you click on it, and it rearranges the window. You see your design window is here, and your XAML is here now, and then your Solution Explorer is here. So you see everything now on a single screen. You can adjust the windows as you want in terms of sizing. With this, you can, for instance, increase this slightly. You can further decrease this or increase it as you wish, and it gives you more window here, So, but this is our first window now for in our XAML WPF application. So, and if you look at this window, what is creating it is just a single window tag and another grid tag. These are practically the two XAML tags that are responsible for this window. So this window is closed by this window tag is closed by this /window tag here. And if you notice, it's got a whole lot of stuff within here, which are not very relevant now, apart from just to let you know that this X class refers to the application. which you created, and it just gives it that name. And then another important thing I need to mention here is title. So this title main window is this main window you're seeing here on the window when it displays, when it runs. Now this height width here is what you're seeing here. This height of 450 and the width of 800 is what you're seeing here. So for instance, if I change this to say 850, you see immediately the change. You see the change here already. So if I take it back to 450, it will come back to the normal level. So you can easily just determine the heights of your controls just by playing around with the height and width parameters. Now the grid, this for every WPF application, you would have to have, for every WPF window, you will have to have a container control that will enable you or that will help you host all the necessary control elements that you put on that application. So in this particular case, the system came default with the grid container control. So which means everything that you place in this particular window would have to now be within this grid. So you can place all the controls that you want, the text boxes, the buttons, everything within this. Now, the container controls are very important because they have different behaviors, and you need to think of the application you're building and determine the best behavior, the best container control that has the behavior that fits the objectives of that application most. For instance, the grid container controls stacks things on top of each other. So if I create, and by that I mean that if I create a button now, if I create a button here, and just let me just give it a content, forget about name for now, and say first button. And then close it at this. The first button immediately comes in here, but you notice it occupies the entire space. Occupies the entire space grid, control the grid space. Now, if I create a second button, so which I will do again. So if I create a second button like this, and also give it a content of let me give it a content of second button. Also notice that the content now changes to second button. So meanwhile, the first button is still there. It's just that the second button, because the grid, the behavior of grid, which is the container control hosting these other controls within it, the behavior is that things stack on top of each other. So you put this one, it shows first, everything becomes first button. But when you put the second one, it stacks on top of the first one. So you don't see the first one anymore. It's now the second one you're seeing. So, and that is important for you to know that this is the behavior of this container control grid. Otherwise, you might be wondering, where is my first button? I wanted the two buttons to show, but it's now showing only one. Yes, it's showing only one, which is the last one, because the first one is beneath that last one, because that is the behavior of grid. It's not an error. It's not it's not a bug. It's just the way this container controller works. And so if I change it to a container control with a different behavior, so let's take a stack control, for instance, which stacks things top to down, top to bottom, you will now see that these controls, these buttons will now all feature. So let me change this thing to stack control, for instance. Let me change it to stack panel, for instance, to stack panel. And then you'll see that the two buttons are now showing, because I've now changed it to a container control that has a different behavior. And this different behavior is that it stacks things from top to bottom. So the first button comes first, followed by the second button, then follows by any other control element that you place all the way down. And that is the way stack control behaves, stack panel behaves. So just to test around other things, we can put in now within this stack panel, we can put in under other control elements such as text blocks. So you can see text block, say maybe text block that just says it's got a text that says only enter first name. So enter first name, and you close the tab by just pressing the slash, and then enter first name immediately appears here, So beneath it, because it stacks top to down, you should put a text box. Let's now do a text box. And that you give that text box a name, say T box first name. So you call it first name. And then you close it. You now see that where you enter the first box, first name has come beneath the text, the block of enter first name. So this is where the user will have to enter the first name. And you can do the same thing for surname or last name. So I can copy the text block and the text box, and now just change the text to last name, and change this T box to also last name, and then you now see that the second one will come out, So we now have enter last name, and then the text box where users will enter. So now if we run this application now, you will notice a little bit of a difference. So now you will see that the application now, it has two buttons, first button, second button. It now has a text, enter first name, and it has space where somebody can actually enter first name, John, and then it has last name where somebody can enter last name, John Boo. So now it accepts that, but that's basically what the application can do at this moment. It is not equipped to do anything else. These buttons are just there. If you click it, it doesn't do anything because we haven't told it to do anything. But at this stage, we are just trying to let you understand how you can lay out control elements within a container control, and to make you most importantly understand that container controls have different behaviors, and it is important for you to understand the behavior of the container control you're choosing. You're choosing based on you're choosing so that it will fit, and make sure that it fits the objectives of the application you're building. So as we showed, a grid actually stacks things on top of each other, and therefore the first things you display will not be visible. It is only the very last item that will be visible. But the stack panel allows you to stack things from top to bottom, and everything you stack will be visible. So with that, now let us go back and take off some of this and just align this the way this application would probably look in real life. So if I close this now and go back to this place, so first of all, let me take out this menu and call it my first application. So it's because it's a title, so my first WPF application, and you see immediately that the window becomes titled that way. So now we look at these buttons. I think this button, we take out the first button here, so that first button disappears. And usually in an application, the button doesn't come first before even the things you are entering. The things you are entering, will finish entering it, and then you have a button which you can click. So let me take out this button from here and put it beneath the last text box statement or tag, and then so the button automatically comes down. Now the whole thing looks a bit squashed, so let me give some margin to the stack panel so that it will not look too squashed the way it is currently looking. So I say margin And I give it maybe a margin of 20 for now. So you see, it has given some little bit of space now. And then I can now give just height to the button. Let the button be slightly bigger than it is now. So just give it a height. And say maybe height of 30 or even 40. It will be slightly more than 30, 40. And then the area, the text blocks, let me give them also height of 30 in this case. So 30, and this one also height of 30. Text box. Height of 30. Yeah, and and that's it. So you can see the second button and this thing is a bit squashed, so you can also put a margin there in between these two, so that so you can put a small margin here of say 5 to create that space. So you can just say 5 and you now see some space. You can actually even say 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then you play around to know which one is down, so that you can actually give it. So it's not this one, and I think it's this one. It's not this one too. So which one is it? Because it shouldn't be this. So, oh yeah, so it's this last one. So now with this, you have created enough space here, and to a large extent, we have now seen how you place controls within a WPF application. And then we've seen the structure of the WPF application. You have window with a closing window tag, and then you have at least one container control, which we saw with grid, and changed it to stack. The reason we changed it to stack panel was because of the nature of the grid vis-a-vis the nature of the application we want to create. So a grid panel, the grid stacks things on top of each other, and that means that when you've stacked a number of things, it is actually the last thing you put on top that will be visible to the user. But we wanted to see different text blocks, and that enables user to also enter information to the system and capture it later on. So that was what we had in our mind, and therefore we changed it to stack panel, which stacks items from top to bottom. So that way it allows you to actually display, enter first name, and also display the text box where that first name where the user can enter that first name, and then also allows you to display, enter last name, and also displays the text box where the user can enter that last name. And then it allows you to display a button which the user is supposed to click for that information to be captured and then done something with. At this stage, we are not getting to that level, so this is basically to give you a view, a preview of how WPF application works, particularly with respect to displaying control elements within a container control and within a window. So the other thing I need to highlight is this set of lines here. Like I said, they are not important for you to worry about now, but just know that these are namespaces of some sort that are included by default in every WPF application you create. While this one enables you to make you this is the default namespace for WPF applications, and then this extends that default namespace to now include XAML specific features that you can then use within this WPF application. And then this also is another extension that enables you to include some data context items during design operations, during design, particularly when you're using Visual Studio and Blend. So, and then all these other ones also have their meanings, but like I said, you shouldn't worry about this. As you progress with time and as you continue to build more and more applications, you begin to now understand the usefulness of this and then what exactly they are actually used for and why they are here. Thank you for watching, and if you learned something new or enjoyed this video, be sure to show us support by clicking like and subscribe. Your support helps us to bring you even better content, so stay tuned for the next exciting video. You can also click the link below to see other free and paid videos on other exciting topics. If the click did not work, kindly copy the link and paste on your browser. Thank you and see you in the next video.